Hello dear Polymer Clay enthusiasts, I'm Mihaela from Learn Polymer Clay. I'm back with more inspiration for work with clay. In today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to make such funny looking beads. I call them winter inspired beads, and in fact they are the perfect opportunity to play with polymer clay, embossing powders, UV resin, and in the same time make funny looking beads that you can use to make pendants or earrings, or you can even make them in a larger size and use them as winter decorations. So I hope that you like this idea. So I'm working with properly conditioned polymer clay. I have a marbled clay, which is in fact a combination of black polymer clay and white polymer clay of some scrap clay. Then I passed this marble clay as well as the white clay through a medium setting of my pasta machine, but I would say that even lower, thinner setting would work better. Then I use my Lisa Pavelka texture plate to texture the marble clay, and this is going to be the back of the bead. Then I put the two layers one on top of the other, and I'm going to use a triangle cutter to make an interesting bead, a shape that I consider to be interesting, and I hope that you will like it too. So I placed the cutter on top of the two layers so that I would be able to push the marbled clay outwards and have a concave bead. And I'm taking the time to press the polymer clay outwards, and I'm taking advantage of the flexibility of polymer clay. And as you can see, the pattern that I textured using the Lisa Pavelka texture plate is still visible, even though it got distorted a little bit. When you are happy with the depth of the piece, you can press the cutter and then really cut out this piece. And then you can use your craft knife or a rigid blade and remove the excess clay. I'm not very worried and very concerned about my borders, about the borders of the bead, because I intend to make a thin border out of polymer clay. And then I'm just going to use my round ball tools to enhance the depth of the piece, and I can tell you that I've tried out this idea with round cutters, and it was even easier to get a very nice depth and a very nice bead. But still I like how this triangle bead turned out as well. And you'll have to keep baby wipes near, because it is not an easy thing to keep your polymer clay white, especially when you work in the same time with a black or dark colored polymer clay, and you will get some color on your hands, some black polymer clay on your hands, and you will put it on top of the white. And then I decided to add a little bit of white mica powder to give the background of the bead a pearlescent effect. And on the back I've added some silver metallic powder to have a faux silver effect, and this is why I've used a dark color of clay, dark gray, for the back, because I wanted to have a faux silver look for the back of the bead. And then I've just put the scrap clay into the pasta machine on the setting number 6 of my pasta machine to have a very thin sheet of polymer clay. And I don't want the color to be, I don't know, too marbled. I will cut out a gray area, not so marbled. And you'll just have to use your rigid blade and cut a thin border for the piece. And in order to make sure that this thin border will adhere to the bead, I don't recommend you to put mica powder on these areas. And then you'll just have to use your craft knife and remove the excess clay. And of course, do your best to smooth off this joining line. I'm using my rigid blade to remove some excess clay. Next, I'm going to use some black clay and make a very small tree trunk for the tree. And then I just took a small quantity of polymer clay and rolled it into a small tree trunk. And then I've taken some conditioned true green polymer clay, and I passed it through a medium setting of my pasta machine, and then I used a small star cutter and cut a star shape. And then I've taken a small quantity of green polymer clay and rolled it into my hands and made a shape that was similar to the shape that I've used for the tree trunk. And then I've just used my medium round ball tool to blend everything into the shape of a tree top. And I am also twisting a little bit the upper part to have a nice funny looking tree, evergreen tree. And then I've just used a small part of a head pin, of a copper head pin, and I'm putting this inside the tree to make sure that these two parts are going to stay connected. And then I will press the tree into the base, and I am going to use small bits of white polymer clay to make a fake snow. And I will use the smallest ball tool or any other dotting tool will do to press this snow into the base, and in the same time I am making sure that I'm also applying it on top of the trunk base to make sure that it is going to stay there. And again, I'm going to use a little bit of white mica powder to give the same pearlescent effect to this snow. So you don't have a difference in the color of the background and in the color of this snow. I wanted to have the same effect on both. Then I've taken a screw pin and I'm just going to screw it inside the bead. And here you have two possibilities. You can apply a little bit of liquid polymer clay to make sure that this screw pin will stay inside the piece, or you can bake the piece, and then when the piece is properly baked, you can add a little bit, a drop of weld bond, which is what I'm going to do. Again, I'm adding a little bit more white mica powder inside the bead. Into the oven 50 minutes at the temperature recommended by the polymer clay manufacturer. And now here's the baked bead. And I'm using an ink pen and transparent ink because I intend to apply some snow looking embossing powder. So I'm going to apply this embossing powder on top of the tree and slightly underneath the tree, on the area decorated with the fake snow, and also in the background. And then I've just put back the excess embossing powder, and this is why I've used a piece of paper underneath so that I could collect the excess powder and put it back into the jar. And then you'll just have to use your heat gun and heat set the embossing powder that has a very beautiful glitter. And I am going to add a little bit more embossing powder, but this time I'm not going to set it with heat. I will just trap it inside UV resin. I wanted to show you that I've made a piece with a round cutter, and for that piece I've used some iridescent flakes, but then I didn't like so much the effect, so for the triangle piece I'm not going to use them. Sometimes you have to decide when there's too much, when less is more. So I decided that for the triangle bead I'm not going to use such flakes that I like and that would go very well for other designs, but not for this one. And then I put this piece for 30 minutes under an UV lamp. And this is how the piece looks, and I've tried this idea with round cutters and with a larger round cutter, and also with metal leaf, silver metal leaf. I tried this idea by applying silver metal leaf, and of course you will have to seal your pieces, the back of the piece where you apply the mica powder with varnish. And in case you decide to use silver metal foil, metal leaf, I'm sorry, you will have again to seal your piece and use varnish as well. As always, I hope that you liked this idea. I hope that you're inspired to create more using clay. I hope that you will take this inspiration and use it in your work with clay. Please keep me informed about the way these beads worked for you and how you translated these ideas into your work. Thank you again, and stay tuned for more inspiration for work with clay.